And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today we are looking at just some offseason moves that the Washington Commanders might possibly make. And I thought that this was pretty interesting. I saw this article here. This is on Bleacher Report, and this is by Alex Bolston. I think that's how he says his name there. But anyhow, he's talking about the possibility of the Washington Commanders maybe going out here and trading for a Pro Bowl wide receiver in DK Metcalf. And so let's go ahead and look at exactly what is talked about in this particular article, because he is talking about, look, the biggest positions of need, the top trade assets, and then also, too, the trade targets that maybe the Washington Commanders could go after, as well as what a hypothetical trade would look like. And so let's start with biggest positions of need. So I definitely think that, yes, the offensive line is something the Washington Commanders most certainly should address. And I think for the most part, it's something that they can address, I think, in the NFL draft. I think that they can go out there and they can get better on the offensive line. I've said this before that I just feel like that this team really has the real identity of running the football. And I think that by getting better on the offensive line, you improve that, but you also improve the fact that you are able to protect Jaden Daniels even more. So I definitely think that that is a position that can be addressed in the draft. And I think it is something that Washington Commanders certainly need to go after. And so next up, the wide receiver, which we're going to talk about in a moment. So yes, the wide receiver position, this is no big secret. We know we need to get a legitimate number two out there, whether we do it in the draft or via a trade or free agency. I think that move is really imminent in as far as the Washington Commanders doing so. An edge rusher, look, I think that is probably the most important acquisition to this team. We've talked about it before with maybe they get in the sweepstakes here and take a big swing for Myles Garrett. Do they maybe go out there and try to get Trey Hendrickson over from the Cincinnati Bengals if he becomes available? Maybe Max Crosby is another player out there that becomes available. I don't know. Either way, I think the Washington Commanders are going to take a big swing via maybe a free agent trade, but also, too, I think that they are most certainly addressing this in the draft. Now, next up, as far as the trade assets are concerned, look, with Marshawn Lattimore, Austin Eckler, and Daron Payne, I think that, you're probably going to get, I think, neither one of these players as a real trade asset. Like, I think that when you look at the bottom line here, Marshawn Lattimore, in my opinion, and I think Adam Peters has said this as well, he is going to be, I think, part of the future for this team. I think that they are looking to extend Marshawn Lattimore most certainly. And I think that there's a real possibility that there could be maybe an extension that is a bit cap friendly here and allows the Washington Commanders to get other pieces around Lattimore, and also to really maximize Jaden Daniels and his rookie contract in this window that we have. And so I think that the extension is coming. I would not see that Marshawn Lattimore is going to be traded. So I don't agree with that. When you talk about Austin Eckler, I don't see him being a trade asset. In fact, I see him really being with this team. I think that he was huge for us and wouldn't want to move on from Austin Eckler. I think he's a player that you keep. And now with Daron Payne, look, I think it becomes interesting with Daron Payne, and the same thing with Jonathan Allen. And I think that right now between the two, I think that Jonathan Allen would be the one maybe that would be on the move. I think that, Daron Payne, yeah, I could see that he could be a trade asset, but I think it would have to really depend on really what the Washington Commanders are trying to do as far as the trade market. Are they looking to maybe upgrade on the defense? Would he be available that way? We have talked about scenarios where maybe they do go ahead and package up Jonathan Allen in that way to try to, kind of maybe grease the wheels a little bit more on a trade. So maybe that's something that could happen. Either way, I mean, there's a lot of speculation out there, because if the Washington Commanders Commanders do happen to move on from Jonathan Allen, I think it does save them right around like $16.4 million as far as the salary cap and just a little bit more wiggle room. And so I think it would be Jonathan Allen would be maybe a trade asset there. And so next, I wanted to jump into what the lead is and talking about the trade targets. And so he leads with DK Metcalf, couldn't get it out. And then he has Jonah Williams and Christian Kirk. And so, look, DK Metcalf, I think, makes a lot of sense for the Washington Commanders if they're going to go out there and get him. I do think that with DK Metcalf, you get a Pro Bowl wide receiver. And look, DK Metcalf has been, I think, spectacular really for the Seahawks. Looking at his career stats, look, since he's entered the league, he had 900 yards there. He was over 1,000 yards his next season, 967 the season after that. Then he had 2 back-to-back 1,000-yard campaigns. He's had, I think his best campaign of touchdowns was 12 in 2021. So you're looking at a player that can certainly, get into the end zone. But more importantly, you look at the averages for DK Metcalf. He is a guy that absolutely takes the lid off of top of defenses. I think he averaged 15 a catch there as far as his average is concerned in this last season. I think he had a career best of 16.9 as far as the average in 2023. And so not only can he take the lid off the top of a defense, but I also think that DK Metcalf is going to be a player that I think could be effective over the middle of the field, right? Because, he's a big wide receiver, so you get a good, catch radius with him as well, and he's physical too. And so that is another thing that I do love about DK Metcalf is that he's going to win, I think, on the line of scrimmage. He's still young enough to where he can win on the perimeter, and his route tree is not limited. Like, he can stretch the field, he can go over the middle of the field, he can make the spectacular catches and things like that with his athleticism. And so, look, it definitely would be an added dimension to this wide receiving core. And yes, I would like to see it. And, I think that it's interesting when you look at this. He's saying that maybe a 2025 first round pick might do the trick and maybe getting the Seahawks to maybe get this deal done. And I don't know. I think you could maybe get a second round pick. I think maybe that would maybe get the Seahawks interested. Maybe they would take a straight first here, but here's the thing with DK. I think that he's on his last year of his contract coming up. And I think it's a situation where if the Commanders were to get him, you're not necessarily having to worry about a big salary there. You're looking at the Seahawks, who are actually, they have to take care of the dead cap that is on his contract. And I think that, for Seattle in this situation, and why I say maybe a second round pick might get it done, is because Seattle is in a tough situation with their salary cap. And that's where the issue is with them. Like, they don't have a very good salary cap here. I think it's right now they're projected maybe to be over the salary cap. And so for Seattle, look, maybe they want to move on with, their younger receiver that they have there. Maybe they want to try to cut some costs and things like that, and maybe kind of get ahead of like getting into a situation of an extension, or maybe losing him for just absolutely nothing. And so maybe the Seahawks would do that. And I think that it's interesting, and I think it's something that definitely could happen for the Washington Commanders, because nobody's been talking about that. I think everybody's been looking at a player like Devontae Adams. We've been looking, at Cooper Kupp as well. Like, he's a player that we expect that somebody would trade for. We've been looking at all these other players, and I think that, yes, maybe there's a chance that Seattle would want some draft capital to try to get this thing rebuilt in the right direction and kind of get away from the situation that they have going on with their salary cap. The other player that he mentioned in this one, I don't necessarily think that you're going to go after Christian Kirk, because, look, Christian Kirk, he has exited the last 2 seasons with season-ending injuries. I don't think the Washington Commanders would want any of that. And then with Jonah Williams, look, I think he's a very good offensive tackle, and certainly a guy that you can, will help you on your line or whatnot. But I just think that this is something the Washington Commanders would not need to give up draft capital to go address. I feel like that there is an abundance of maybe tackles and things like that that they can get in the draft that actually would be maybe more better than some of the trades that you can make for an offensive lineman. And so, anyway, let me know in the comments here. Do you think that, yes, the Washington Commanders should, in fact, go after DK Metcalf? Do you agree with the fact that, look, maybe it is going to be cost effective for the Washington Commanders to get DK Metcalf because he is on, I think, the last year of his deal, and Seattle obviously is wanting to probably get under the cap space or really get themselves in a good position there. Could it be something where it's like, look, we're just trying to get ourselves in a better situation, and here you go. And do you think that, yes, as far as the trade possibilities or trade assets, I said that it was more going to be a Jonathan Allen than a Daron Payne. I could see that the Washington Commanders would move on from Jonathan Allen, I think, before Daron Payne. I'd love to hear your thoughts here. And so, anyway, let me know in the comments what you're thinking. And as we talk a little bit more Washington Commanders football daily here, talking about the moves and things like that they can make, just as I always say, go Commanders, and I will see you on the next one. All right, peace.